welcome back to Weeby Kids Yoga. In today's session, we're going to be looking at the tale, The Otter's Wife, which you can also find over in our storytelling resource area, and that's told by Danny English. Now, if this is the first time you've come to doing yoga with us today, please ensure you check out our Weeby Kids Intro to Yoga. And otherwise, as ever, make sure that you're wearing comfortable clothing, make sure you have space to practice in, know you can stop at any time. Also, ensure that you practice with kindness to yourself. It's not what your brother or sister or your mum and dad are doing, it's what you are doing and how you are doing it. Remember, yoga should never hurt. It should always just be at a point of balance where you can feel your body moving, but it doesn't hurt. Have some fun. We begin today's session with a greeting, Namaste. It's a greeting from my heart to your hearts all around the world, and from your hearts all the way around the world back to mine. We begin with our hands in Anjali Mudra, prayer position by the heart. And after 3, 1, 2, 3, Namaste. Our tale begins with a story of 2 female otters. Taking yourself down onto your stomachs, rolling onto your fronts, placing your elbows just underneath your shoulders as we lift ourselves up into a gentle otter pose. Now, these 2 otters were very good friends and they loved to swim. Lying yourselves down, lifting those feet, moving your arms around behind and lifting once more. Most of all, they love to swim in the deep river. So rolling yourself back round into a forward seated pose, legs out in front. We're just going to hinge at the hips and bend ourselves forward as we reach for our toes and mimic the deep river. And they would swim in these rivers day and night and day, time and time again. And sometimes they would find they were distracted by a gathering further down the river. It was a tribal gathering, and at the gathering there would be drums. So taking a moment, sitting with our legs crossed, we're just going to close our eyes, if you're comfortable to do that, and just tune into our breathing. Thinking about rhythm. Where are you breathing? Is it just in your chest at the top? Or can you feel your breath moving down, lower into the body and into what feels like the stomach area? Now there was music and dancing and drums. Placing your hands gently over your heart. Just see if you can hear your heart beating. And if you can tap out the beat. Dum-dum, 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 dum-dum. Opening the eyes once more. Bringing your hands back to your knees. And the otters both enjoyed listening to these gatherings, and they wish that they could go and join them. Then, one night, there was a beautiful full moon, and its rays filled the sky. Reaching hand out to the side, lowering down onto the hand, lifting the other arm up as we mimic those beautiful rays of full moonlight. And the other side, hand out, down, stretching over with the other arm. Once more, stretching the fingers just a little way further. Hands down. If you want to, you can lower the elbow if that's comfortable. Otherwise, you can stay raised. And stretching out the sides of the body. Those beautiful full moon rays of light. On the other side, elbow down if it feels comfortable. If not, you can stay up as you stretch over. And coming back up to seated position. And on this beautiful full moon night, while they wished they could join in the gathering, up above flew an owl. So coming up, feet about hip width apart, feet turning out slightly, taking your arms, you will be placing them behind your back, placing a little grip behind the back. So opening wide, arms behind, and gripping at the back. And above, they heard the owl hooting, hoo-hoo, hoo-hoo, hoo. And the owl said to the otters, "Do you not know the power of your tails?" The otters looked up, for they didn't. And the owl went on to explain that when it was a full moon, bringing yourself back down onto your stomachs, rolling over, take your arms back, catch hold of your ankles, pulling your heels up and lifting, that when there was a full moon, that in fact the otters could remove their tails, coming back down, coming on up to a kneeling position. The otters were very surprised by this. And as it was a full moon, they did just this. Taking one hand across the knee, moving round the other side, and just rub at the base of your spine. And this is how the otters removed their tails. Coming back round on the other side, crossing one hand to the opposite side, taking the other one behind, rubbing on the lower spine and twisting the head. And both of the lady otters removed their tails. It was true. And so the lady otters were able to go up onto the banks, and they were able to hide and watch the gathering. Taking yourself forward, folding down to a nice, cosy position in which to hide. And coming back up. These ladies were transformed. Bringing yourself into a standing position. Rock backwards and forwards on your feet. Bend your knees, bouncing a little. Wriggling the body. Rolling the shoulders back. Imagine there is a string pulling up and out through your head. The otters have been transformed. They are now beautiful ladies. The owl was right. They could transform into human beings. How amazing. And so they enjoyed the night, hiding down behind some rocks. Sitting, your feet flat. If you need to come up on your toes, that's okay. Sitting down in a nice position. Use your arms at the front for balance so you don't fall on your bottom. And there they sat and they watched the music and the dancing and the laughter and the drums from nice close to. They could almost feel the warmth of the fire. But then, as the sun began to rise in the sky, hands together in prayer position, standing up nice and tall, opening the arms nice and wide and gently reaching back, they had to return to the river's edge, collect their tails, turning the body round, placing their tails on. Again, rub the bottom of your spine. Coming back round, other side, other arm out, twisting round. Look at the back, rubbing the bottom of their tails, making sure they're back on. And the beautiful ladies transformed once again to being otters. Coming down onto all fours, hands down, sliding the feet away, placing the elbows underneath the shoulders, toes down and lifting. And the otters were then able to swim away. Lying yourselves down, arms back, lifting up as they swam down that river. Lowering down, coming back up onto all fours, swinging the legs in front and hinging at the hips to lean forwards, toes pointing up, swimming deep into the deep river. Down they go and back up. Now, the otters were so excited by all of this, they could do nothing but talk about it. Arms open wide, crossing your arms over. Chatter, 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 chatter. Oh, they talked and talked and talked. Chatter, chatter, chatter. Stretching the arms nice and wide. Crossing it with the other arm on top this time. Chatter, 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 chatter. Chatter, 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 chatter. Oh, there was so much to discuss. Wasn't this an amazing discovery? How they could change from otter into human. So, of course, the otters watched very carefully as the moons began to change. Standing nice and tall, raising your arms above your head and leaning over to one side. They watched as the moon waned, and then slowly as the moon began to wax and once again became a full moon. Lying down on your stomach once more, grabbing hold of your ankles, pushing up through the heels, lifting through the body into a beautiful full moon. And of course, the full moon came once again, and our otters, of course, made their journey. Hands underneath your shoulders. This time, if you're feeling confident, you can lift up all the way or to wherever is comfortable, pushing through the arms. And of course, our otters then swam down the rivers. So taking ourselves into our swimmings, postures and up and back up. Bring the legs round and down the river we go, hinging at the hips, leaning forwards, down we go. The otters swam deep under the waters until they bobbed up at the water's edge. As before, they were able to take off their tails. From a cross-leg position, raise the leg that is on top and put it over the knee of the other leg. Take the opposite arm to your knee, put it across and use your elbow against the tip of the knee. Use your other arm to take you round to look behind you. And here our otter ladies were able to rub at the back of their tails. Coming back round, you're going to do the same on the other side. So put your other leg on top. There we go. Now raise the top knee, pull the other leg in a bit tighter, cross over that top leg. Take the opposite arm to your knee, lift it over, elbow to knee, and twist around to face the back. And the otter ladies were rubbing at their tails until they came loose. And as they did, coming back round, they were able to once again transform into women. So rocking back and forth on those feet, bobbing the knees, rolling the shoulders, standing up nice and tall, shoulders back and down. Imagine that string pulling up through your head. And once again, our women were free to go and watch the gathering. But they were so excited that they didn't wait for the transformation to complete. As soon as they twisted, they started to move on to the land and along the water bank's edge, along the sand. And before long, they were gone and they were hiding and they were able to watch the gathering as it occurred. Now, it happened to be that on that evening, A man was out walking in the beautiful full moonlight, and he noticed on the ground, how unusual, a set of prints that moved from being webbed feet to human footprints. From webbed feet to human footprints. He thought, this is not normal. And he tucked himself away to watch, hidden. And of course, once the merriments completed and the tribal gathering was at an end, the sun was starting to rise. Up we stand, lifting our arms up nice and tall, leaning back gently. And our women dashed back over to the river. Down they came and placed on their tails, rubbing the base of the spine, rubbing the base of the spine, lying themselves down. Here we go. Arms underneath the shoulders, gently pushing up through the hands as we become once again beautiful otters. And of course our otters, they like to swim. Off they went down the river and then swinging the legs back round. They dove deep into the river and swam. Now then, our man was still at the water's edge and he had seen all of this and he was quite amazed by it all. And wanting to see this again, he made sure that he came to the river's edge every night, well tucked away. And of course, as always, the moon, it waxed and waned and became once more a full moon. Lying down on our tummies once more, grabbing back hold of our ankles, heels engaged, pointing up to the ceiling and lifting. On the full moon, he was rewarded. For there, from the water, came our otter ladies. They had swum all the way down the river in their excitement, ready to come along, taking from crossed legs, lifting over, to remove their tails. And on the other side, that's it, fantastic, tails gone. And to be able to transform and become women. Now the man, he had never seen anything like this before. And he thought to himself, I must have one of those beautiful women for my own. And so he went to where they had hidden their tails carefully, and he took one and stashed it away. Now then, our otter ladies were hidden. And as the sun came up, as it always did after the full moon, they made their return to the river. And there, one of the ladies started to put back on her tail. And as she was rubbing it, she struggled a little and needed to rub a little more. She looked up and noticed that her friend was looking very upset, was frantically looking around and unable to find her tail. Where is my tail? Where has it gone? Said the lady. I don't know, said her friend, but I am an otter. I must return to the river. Have no fear. Look well. It must be here somewhere. And I will always return on a full moon. I will be your friend. But I must leave you. And so the lady turned herself back into the otter and pushing ourselves up into otter, and lowering back down, and off she swam, looking behind a couple of times before she disappeared deep, deep swimming into the river and away. Our other otter lady sat and cried. She was so upset. She was an otter too. She wanted to return to the water and swim away down the river, and she was stuck. And so Our Lady curled herself up, leaning forwards, and shed tears. As it got lighter, the man came out from where he was hiding and of course came over to this upset young lady. But she didn't want to tell him what had happened. She didn't want to reveal her secret. And so she told him that she had been sailing down the river on a boat, sitting with your legs out in front, leaning back ever so gently. Come up onto your toes, leaning your weight back a little more, arms out in front. Just gently lift your feet so you are balanced. And if you feel brave, lift those legs into a beautiful boat posture. Lower those toes. She told him that her boat had toppled and that she'd fallen out, and here she was, and she knew nobody, and she was so alone. And the man didn't tell her that he knew. And so he offered her shelter, warmth and food, and took her back to the village so that he could look after her. And over time, together, the man and the otter lady built themselves a house. Coming up, standing nice and tall, jumping the legs nice and wide, raising those hands up to the ceiling, touching palms. And they built this beautiful house together. And then over time, bending those knees, turning the heels in, they had 2 children. 1, 2. Now, over time, the lady also became very happy in a way. She would see her friend come and visit her down at the riverbank and leave. She never forgot that she was indeed an otter, but she had to accept where she was. Then, one day, the man and the children went out and left her to clean the house, stretching back up. And she did a particularly good job that day because she was able to. Everybody was out of her way. And turning the foot in slightly so it faces forward on one side, turning it out on the other. Bend your knee enough just to lift the back leg and leaning forwards. She found herself cleaning in all corners of the house. Lowering down, coming back over, turning the other foot in and the front foot out, turning the body round. She found herself looking at some wrapped up old pieces of something or other, and in the corner she found one that was wrapped up particularly well, coming back down. Lowering yourself down into a deep squat there, she unwrapped what she had found. And there, to her astonishment, was her tail. It had been here all along. Oh, but how could that be? Taking the legs together now, in a nice kneeling position. Suddenly, she knew. She thought back and she understood. Taking yourselves now into a lying down position. Find somewhere that's comfortable for you. Either lying flat, legs straight, or you could also lie on your side or with your heels up, however is most comfortable for you. If you are cold, you can of course take the time now, press pause, get yourselves a nice comfortable warm blanket to make your next few minutes as comfortable as you can. And lying down. The Lady Otter realised her fate. She realised that she'd been tricked. She was sad in her heart with this knowledge. But what to do now? She had grown to love the man and her life, and especially her beautiful children. But holding the otter's tail in her hands, she knew it was time to return to the water where she belonged. And so she decided to write a letter. She wrote a letter to her children and she told them everything, the whole story, from her life as an otter and how she became a woman, how she ended up living in the village with the man, and then how she had her beautiful children, and she told them and reassured them how much she loved them. And she told them why it was that she felt that she had to return to her home, because in reality she was an otter. And without further ado, she told them the next piece of information. As your mother, if you ever need anything from me, write a wish, then come down to the river, make a bark boat, and send it up the river to me. I cannot tell you when, but I will always do my best to make your wish come true. And so the otter lady left, put on her tail, and took herself back out into the river and swam deep into its currents and away. And when the children and the man returned, they found the letter. And in due time, the children understood. And many times they went down to the river with their wishes on their bark boats and sent them out up the river. And many times throughout their lives, those wishes were met. Not always when they'd expected them, and not always how, but the wishes were always met. If you haven't already, close your eyes and take a moment just to tune into your breathing. We can call our planet Earth our mother, something like the otter lady was mother to her children. And we know that when we want for something and we wish for something, that we really hope in the deepest recess of our hearts that it will happen. This is having our wish. And we send our wishes out into the universe, oftentimes with please. Can you think of a moment in time where you have asked for something that you so wanted and sent it out to the universe? Now, as with the otter mother, she will always meet those wishes, but she can't tell you when exactly or how. But know that when we send out our wishes to the universe, that the universe answers and that our wishes are met. Taking a deep breath in now, wriggling those fingers and toes. If you haven't already now, then open up your eyes. Take a big stretch. Oh! And bring yourself up to a seated position. Our otter wife story tells us of many tales, and there is a lot that we can take away from it. Today, we choose to look at wishes and sending them out to the universe to be met. We don't know when or how, but at some point, wishes do come true. And on that note, I hope that you've enjoyed this session and that we see you again sometime soon. Take care. Bye from Weepy Kids.